Hello everyone and welcome back to Scholars. I'm Gaurav. I'm here to take you through the ancient history for your civil services examination. Let's continue with our today's lecture. Constructing the history. Now we know that history is divided into two parts. One is prehistory, of which we do not have any written records, or if we have any written records, the script has not been deciphered. Another part of history is proto-history, of which we have written records and their script has been also deciphered. The subject matter of our today's class is this proto-history. We'll look at the sources through which we'll construct the history of ancient India from now on. From now on, the history will be more exact and precise. Let's move on. Now the first question arises is why the study of history is important to us. Let's go through few of the points that I was able to make out. It tells us how, when, and where people developed the earliest culture in our country. We know that the earliest culture developed in this Indus Valley region, and the civilization came to be known as Indus Valley civilization. Now, it was through the study of history that we were able to make. Now, we are able to make out that the earliest civilization developed in this Indus Valley region. After the fall of Indus Valley civilization, we see there is a gap of around 1000 years in the development of second civilization, and the second civilization grew in this Gangetic plains. I hope this is clear to all of you. Let's move on. It shows us how the ancient Indians utilized natural resources and created a means of livelihood for themselves. Now, this ancient Indian people used to make tools of natural resources like the wooden plowshare, stone sickles. These stones were also used in making jewelry. They used to make houses of wood, mud, and that is how they utilized these natural resources according to their needs and created livelihood for themselves. I hope this is clear. We also come across various fields that these peoples took jobs in, like farming, spinning, weaving, metalworking. Now, for these people to take job in this varied field, they need to have one prerequisite, that is food sufficiency. Before the advent of agriculture or before the development of agriculture, all the people used to do at that time was hunt and gather food so that they are able to live their life. And after the development of agriculture, once their food sufficient, they produce surplus, and that is when people took job in these varied fields like spinning, weaving, and metalworking. I hope this is clear. It is the study of history is also important to understand the basis of the current culture, like the current languages which developed from those used in ancient India. Now, the ancient Indian language like Sanskrit and Tamil were the first to use. That is in southern India, it was Tamil which was the first spoken. We come across the Sangam age where this Tamil literature was developed. The Sanskrit came with the advent of Indo-Aryans. These Indo-Aryans used to speak Sanskrit. Their language was Sanskrit, and through this developed various languages. I hope this is clear. It helps in understanding the diversity and underlying unity in that diversity. Now we know that India is a land of unity and diversity. This period between 2nd century BC to 2nd century AD is known for the advent of Central Asian dynasties like Shakas, Kushans, Indo-Greeks, Parthians. These came into India, they settled in this northwestern frontier of India, and they mingled into the Indian culture so well that in the later stages it was difficult to make out whether they were Indians or not. And this is the basis from where the diversity in India originated. I hope you can make out why the study of history is important to us. So let's move on and talk about the sources through which we'll construct the history. First is the material remains. We have come across these material remains through the archaeological evidences. Second is coins, inscriptions, literary sources that were written by the various authors of ancient India or the scholars. They were with there are lot many scholars like Kautilya, Kalidas, Ban Bhatt. These all helps in tracing the history of ancient India. They throw a light upon the social, cultural, and economic conditions prevalent in their respective periods. Foreign accounts. Now, India was visited by many foreigners like the Megasthenes, the Fahin, and Hunsang. They came to India. They lived in India for a certain period of time, and that is why their accounts are very valuable to us because they wrote a very distinct the characterization of India. I hope this is clear to all of you. Let's move on and talk about the first thing, that is the material remains. Ancient India left innumerable material remains, and they give us adequate picture of the material life in many phases of ancient history. So these material remains gives us picture of the material life of people. That is what were the things these people used to have. Like the ancient Indian, They were aware of bronze. This was their material culture. I hope this point is clear. These material remains are found in better state in arid region as compared to moist and humid climate. For example, the Patliputra had a palace. Now this palace was mentioned by Megasthenes. This palace is not in a very good state because of high rainfall in this Gangetic plains, and that is why they are found in better state in arid region. The material remains of iron has suffered corrosion in this region of moisture and humid climate. The excavation brought to light the cities which people established in ancient India. For example, Mohenjo-daro was established in 2500 BC. After this 1000 years, we do not come across any cities. It was after that the city of Patliputra was developed. Before Patliputra, it was Rajgir, which was the capital of Magad. It was succeeded by this Patliputra, and this Patliputra was taken over in the 7th century AD by Kannauj. So this excavation has brought to light that people established these ancient cities. Now one thing to note is these ancient cities in the early phase were situated on the bank of rivers. It was through the development of ring wells that they were able to establish cities far across from rivers. These ring wells used to supplement their domestic needs. I hope this is clear. It tells us about the prevalent material culture, shows about the layout of the settlement, types of pottery. Now these types of pottery are very important to us. They are different potteries attributed to certain age, like painted grey ware is attributed to later Vedic age. Northern black polish ware is attributed to the period following the later Vedic age, that is this Mahajanpad and this Mauryan Empire. So this pottery is very important to us. Form of houses, types of tools, like the first were the wooden tools, then came the bronze, then came the iron, and iron speeded up the process of development, and that is why this study is important. Types of cereal they used as food. I hope this slide is clear to all of you. Let's move on. Now the material remains which are found, they are subjected to various kinds of scientific examination. Why this scientific examination is needed? So that we will be able to make out that this particular object is ascertained to, we can define their age in which they were used. Their date is fixed by radiocarbon dating. Another method is dendrochronology. This radiocarbon dating is important to us. This radiocarbon, there is an element, radioactive element called C14. It is present in all elements. Now, this C14 decays at a uniform rate and it has a very long half-life. Its half-life is 5568 years. So, in this many years, it reduces itself to half the amount which was present in initial stage. I hope this is clear. So the loss of this content, this carbon 14 content in element helps us in fixing the date of an object. It deteriorates at a uniform rate. So suppose if a thing has half-life of 2 days, so in 2 days it will be half of the amount it was in the initial. And this is the same case with carbon 14. Its half-life is 5568 years. I hope this is clear to all of you. Let's move on and talk about another very important source through which we'll construct the history, that is coins. Now the study of coins is known as numismatic. Ancient currency was not issued in the form of paper because paper was not known in the ancient times. The first thing through which the currency can be produced was metal, and metal was used to produce these coins. The ancient Indian coins were made up of metals like copper, silver, gold and lead. Number of coins have been found on and underneath the surface of the earth. That is, they were excavated and they were also found on the surface. Coin molds which were used for molding metal into coins have been found in large number, and that is why we know that they produce coins of metal, because they had metal moldings. Now most number of coins belonging to Kushan period have been found. These Kushan periods, the coins of Kushan periods used to have images of the king. Their circulation, their use tells us the region of the extent of their empire. Apart from this, this also tells us the ruling dynasty of that period. These coins throw so much light upon various factors. Can you make out? One is the region of their circulation tells us about the extent of their empire, the ruling dynasties, and also the prosperity of the kingdom. The largest number of the coins produced shows the prosperity of trade and commerce. I hope this is clear. No banking was available in ancient times, so the people used to hold money, Indian as well as foreign currency, in earthen or brass pots, which have been unearthed. Now, through these coins, we were able to trace the history of the respective period. The earliest coin contains the symbol. Later coins mention the name of king and gods. One thing to note here is the earliest coins were the punched mark coins. These coins were punched with various images like that of hills and crescent shapes. After that, the coins were produced in the name of the king and also gods. This shows that religion was important to these kings, and also this shows the prevalence of the culture at that time. That is, they laid very much emphasis upon the religious aspect as well. I hope this is clear. The area where they are found shows the region of their circulation. This enables us to reconstruct the history of the ruling dynasty and also their chronology. I hope this slide is clear to all of you. Coins throw considerable light on the economic history, as we have discussed that the more the number of coins, the more prosperous was the trade and commerce at that time. That is, it was in a flourishing state. Place or period from which we discovered shows the dominance of economic activity in that period. They aided in large-scale transaction and contributed to the trade. Now, the India in ancient time used to have trade contact with foreign lands as well, like the Greeks. They used to trade in silk and species with the Guptas, and that is why early Gupta period is known as the golden age of Indian history. The trade and commerce was in flourishing state, and also there were developments in all the sections of the society. Indo-Greeks were the first to produce gold coins in India. Kushan produces largest and the purest gold coins in India. One thing to note here is Kushan controlled the Silk Route, which used to contribute to the trade and commerce very much in the ancient times. They used to levy tax on the Silk Route, and that was main cause of their revenue, main reason why they generated such a huge revenue in ancient times. And through that, they were able to produce large number of gold coins and also the purest gold coins. Guptas also issued largest number of gold coins in India. These were in northwestern region. These dynasty were foreign dynasty. Guptas were the Indian dynasty who issued largest number of gold coins, which indicate prosperity of that period. These coins also portray kings, gods, religious symbols which throw light upon the art and religious of that time. Now one thing, like there was a king known as Yajna Sri Satkarni. He was a Satavahana king. His coin depicted the images of ships, which shows his enthusiasm towards this ships and navigations. Now can you make out how we know about their history through their coins? So let's take a quick recap. Study of coins is known as numismatic. Ancient currency was issued in the form of metal objects. These metals were copper, silver, and gold. These metals were used to make metal money. Earliest coins were punch mark coins. They were marked with images. They were punched with various images like hills and crescent shape. Number of coins have been found on and beneath the earth's surface. Coin molds have also been found, which shows that large number of coins were produced in ancient India. There was no banking system available, so people used to hoard their coins in earthen or brass pots. Earliest coins contained symbol, and the later coins used to contain the name of the kings and their gods. So this name of the king and god shows their political and cultural development. Areas where they are found shows the region of their circulation. Coins also throw considerable light on economic history. Like the larger the number of coins, the more prosperity was there in the kingdom. Trade and commerce was in flourishing state when the large number of coins were produced. The places and periods from which they discovered shows the dominance of economic activities of the period. They aided in large-scale transaction and contributed to trade. Indo-Greeks were the first to produce gold coins in India. Kushan produced largest number of gold coins, but they were foreigners. Guptas were the Indians to produce large number of gold coins, and Kushans produced the purest gold coin of India. Apart from Guptas, that is, Gupta produced large number of gold coins, but their purity was not as which was followed by the Kushans in their coins. These coins also portray kings, gods, religion symbols which throw a light on art and religion of that time. Let's move on and talk about the inscriptions. Study of inscription is known as epigraphy. They are far more important than coins because they are written records. Earliest inscriptions were recorded on stone. Now these inscriptions were written on hard surface. If they were written in soft or a very fragile surface, they came to be known as manuscripts. These inscriptions were carved on seals like the ancient valley, stones and pillars in rock like those of Mauryan inscription, and the period followed that. But in earliest century of Christian era, copper plate began to be used for this purposes. So there were also inscriptions written on copper plate. The earliest inscriptions were written in Prakrit language. Now this is very important. Now see, there were two languages prevalent in the Vedic age. I mean, they were not written. The knowledge in that Vedic age was passed on from one generation to another through the word of mouth. At that time, the earliest language was Prakrit. Prakrit was the language of the masses. Sanskrit was the language that was spoken in the elite class. So the earliest inscription, in order to be able to be understood by masses, they were written in Prakrit language. Sanskrit was adopted in 2nd century AD and it continued till 4th and 5th century AD. Inscriptions began to be composed in regional languages as well, but it was as late as 9th to 10th century AD. I hope this is clear to all of you. Harappan inscription seems to have been written in pictographic script. That is, the ideals and objects were expressed in the form of pictures in Harappan civilization. We have come across the scripts in Harappan civilization. They used to contain symbols and pictures. The oldest inscription deciphered are Ashokan inscription. It was deciphered in 1837 by a person named James Prinsep. I hope this is clear to all of you. Let's move forward. Ashokan inscriptions were engraved in Brahmi script, that is written from left to right. Just like today, the Brahmi script was written from left corner of the paper to right corner, and this Brahmi script was used throughout the India and continued to be used till Gupta age. Some inscriptions were also written in Kharoshti script. This Kharoshti script had Iranian influence on it. Now, period just before the Mauryas in northwestern India, this region was occupied by Iranians. And that is why you see the prevalent of Kharoshti script in this northwestern frontier, that is in Pakistan. In this script, you write from the right side of the paper to the left side. The inscription used to convey royal orders, like the Ashokan inscription. They used to contain the royal orders regarding social, religious, and administrative matters to officials and as well as to the peoples. We'll read about the Ashokan inscription. They used to have the royal orders, that is, the orders given to the Dhamma Mahabhatra and also the orders conveyed to the people. They used to convey attributes and achievements of the king, like the Allahabad pillar inscription of Samudragupta and Mehruli pillar inscription of Chandragupta I. They used to talk about the achievements of the king. They never spoke ill of their king because it was written by their court poet. Like this Allahabad pillar inscription, it was written by Harisena. He was the court poet of Samudragupta. I hope this is clear. The inscription recording land grants are also found. They are important for studying the land system and administration. So now can you make out why the study of inscription is important to us? Another source through which we will construct the history is literary source of this period. The ancient India knew the art of writing as early as 2500 BC. But the manuscript, that is handwritten scripts, are not older than 4th century AD. The earliest written text was the Rig Veda or the Vedas whole. The Rig Veda is the oldest testament. Apart from that, there are Samved, Yajurved and Atharvaved. These are religious texts. They were written in 4th century, somewhere around 4th century AD. Before it, they are passed on from generation to generation through Shrutigyan, that is through the word of mouth, and the next generation used to absorb this knowledge through hearing. When the printing was not known, manuscripts were immensely valued. They were written on bark and palm leaves, that is on soft surface. They were written in soft surface, and that is why most of them have disappeared. These manuscripts were mostly religious, like the Mahabharata, the Ramayana, the Puran. Now there were developments. These literatures are attributed to the later Vedic age, but there were development in these periods throughout the ancient Indian history, and it was finally compiled in the Gupta age. They throw light upon the social and cultural conditions of the ancient times, like the Rig Veda. The 10th mandal of Rig Veda mentions about the Varna system, and through this Rig Veda we come to know that the society was divided into 4 Varnas, and there were also various yajnas which are mentioned in this other Vedic texts, and that is why we know the social and cultural conditions of that period through these literary sources. These texts have undergone many changes over the period of time, like Jaya had 8,800 verses, it raised to 24,000, it became Bharata, and its final compilation was Sat Sahasri Samhita. Now what is this Jaya, Bharata and Sat Sahasri Samhita? These are nothing but Mahabharata. These were the name of Mahabharata. It was earlier known as Jaya when it had 8,000 verses. Then it came to be known as Bharata when it had 24,000 verses, and final compilation was known as Satta Sahasri Samhita, which is also Mahabharata. The religious text of Jain and Buddhists refers to the historical incidents and persons, like the Jain text Bhagavati Sutta and the Buddhist text Anguttara Nikaya mentions the existence of 16 Mahajanpads in the period following the later Vedic age. So I hope this is clear. Buddhist texts were written in Pali language. This Pali was the language of earliest Buddhism, that is the Hinayana Buddhism. They tells us not only about the life of Buddha but also of the life of royal contemporaries. These royal contemporaries extended their support to Buddhism, and it is mentioned in their texts. So this throw a considerable light upon the religious inclination of the royal dynasties. Let's move forward. The most important among these Buddhist texts are the Jataka tales. They throw light upon the social, economic and political events in the age of Buddha. These Jataka tales are the story of previous birth of Buddha. The Jain texts were written in Prakrit language. They help us to reconstruct the history of UP Bihar in the age of Mahavira. Now, this UP Bihar is the region where the birth of Jainism took place in the ancient India. Jaina text refers repeatedly to the trade and commerce as well. The secular literature we have is Dharma Sutra, which lays down the duties of different varnas and the king and their officials. Now, this king used to align their administration in accordance with the Dharma Sutra in the ancient times, and that is why these texts are important to us, so that we will be able to get the idea about their political and administrative structure. For instance, this Dharma Sutra mentions that the lower the varna, the stringent will be the punishment, and vice versa. And the higher the varna, the more is the more moral conduct is expected from them. So I hope you will be able to make out why this Dharma Sutra is important. It was not religious text, but it lays down the duties of different varnas and kings and their officials. We have work of various legends like Kautilya wrote Arthashastra, Shudra wrote Butchakatigam, Kalidas wrote various dramas like Abhigyan, Shakuntala, Vikram Varsha. This Banabhatta was the court poet of Harsha. He wrote Kadambari and Harsha Charitra. They all wrote their texts in Sanskrit language. It was the language of elite, as I've mentioned. Besides being a creative composition, they give an account of social and cultural life of northern and central India. In addition to Sanskrit, we have some earliest texts in Tamil found in the corpus of Tamil literature, like the Tolkappiyam written by Tolkappiyar. It was the earliest work on Tamil grammar. Most of the Tamil literature consists of songs and poems of Veeras, so they have been recited in the court of kings. I hope this is clear to all of you. Foreign accounts. The indigenous literature can be supplemented with foreign accounts. The foreign traveler left the account of what they saw in India. That is, their account was not biased. They were not under the pressure of the king. They can criticize their kingdom. It was not that they're like just like their court poets who did not speak ill about their empire or their king. Important to note that Alexander's invasion find no mention in Indian sources. We have constructed the history entirely on the basis of Greek sources. That is, we do not have any written records in India about the Alexander's invasion. It is through the foreign accounts we were able to note that Alexander invaded India in somewhere 326 BC. They mentioned that this Chandragupta Maurya, he was the establisher of this Mauryan dynasty. He is mentioned as Sandrocotus in Greek text, and these Greeks historians, they have fixed the date of his accession to 322 BC. This acts as a sheet anchor in the ancient India chronology. I hope this is clear. Another important work is Indica of Megasthenes. This Megasthenes, he was deputed to the court of Chandragupta Maurya. He was before this in the court of Seleucus Nicator, who was defeated by Chandragupta Maurya, and Megasthenes was sent as a gift to Chandragupta Maurya. His work, that is Indica, has survived in fragments and gave us an account of Mauryan rule and administration. Another work is Peripulus of the Athenian Sea. Its writer is still unknown. Pliny's Natural Historia has mentioned of trade with Indians. We have two accounts of Chinese traveler who visited India. Fa Hien. He visited India during the reign of Chandragupta II, Vikramaditya. Now another was Hyun Sang. He visited area during the reign of Harshvardhan, and they have left an account on Buddhism. These were the Chinese traveler. They wanted to see the land of Buddha. This Fa Hien mentions that Gupta administration was so well that he used to roam around this Gangatic valley without any fear of getting robbed. At the same time, Xuanzang mentions that he got robbed during the reign of Harsha. So they throw a light upon the social, economic and religious condition in the age of Gupta. Religious, this Xuanzang mentions that, this Fa Hien mentions that this Gangatic valley became a region or the land of Brahmanism, while the state of Buddhism was in flourishing state in northwestern India at that time. We are talking about the period which followed the Mauryan or the Mahajanpat age. We are talking about this Gupta period in which this Fahin visited India. In this Gupta period, this Gangatic Valley was the land of Brahmanism, and northwestern India was famous for Buddhism. So I hope you will be able to know why these foreign accounts are useful to all of us. Let's go through them once again. The indigenous literature can be supplemented with foreign accounts. These foreign travelers left the account of what they saw. They mentioned that Chandragupta Maurya Sandrocotus, who these Greeks, and through these Greeks sources we were able to know that Alexander invaded India in 326 BC. They have fixed the date of accession of Chandragupta Maurya to the throne is as 322 BC, and this has acted as a sheet anchor in ancient Indian chronology. Another work is Indica. It was written by Megasthenes. This Megasthenes was deputed to the court of Chandragupta Maurya. It has only survived in fragments and gave us an account of moral rule and administration. This Megasthenes also mentions that the Indian society was divided into 7 classes, but this claim is rejected by the Indian historians because the Indian society was divided on the basis of Varna and not classes in the ancient times. Another work is Peripelus of the Aetherian Sea. Its writer is unknown, and Linnaeus Natural Historia. Both of these sources mentions the trade with Indians. Chinese traveler Fahin visited India during the Gupta age. He mentions that this northern region of Gangatic Valley became a land of Brahmanism while Buddhism was still in its flourishing state in northwestern India. Yun Sang, he visited India during the reign of Harsha. Both of their accounts throws light on social, economic and religious conditions in the age of Gupta and Harsha respectively. So I hope all these accounts and all these inscription manuscript coins, their usage is clear to all of you. For more such videos, log on to Scholars. Thank you.